Hey everybody, welcome back to Tomcat Zone for our continuing battle here in the Indian Ocean with 5th Fleet in our Indian Ocean War analysis after action review. We are in game turn 5 and here's the situation as it starts into the first action cycle. To bring up play sequence, we are in the afternoon turn of game turn 5, being the afternoon turn. Only thing that happens in the afternoon turn are the activity cycles, which happen in all turns, but just these. AM, of course, has those activities, PM, those activities. I think we're all catching on to that. Anyway, so we start with cap phase. All the caps pretty much didn't change. None landed, none were added. For me, same for Scott. Replenishment phase we don't do because we're not doing any kind of logistics. Local detections were all made and rolled for. I have no tactical coordination on this turn because, again, the bulk of my aircraft are grounded to the any type of missions besides cap due to command failure. So we start our action phases and action segments, and I won the initiative, and we start with surface for me. I don't have a log file to start our video here, so I'm just going to be giving the analysis of my actions as a surface, and then we'll move on to the next map and see what happens. So basically, just to kind of scroll around here, first thing, the French have moved up a little bit north here towards Yemen and Oman. My purpose in this is because he's been running his bombers out of Ras Karma and basically devastating my air bases along the coast here. I moved the French task force into position there to offer some air defense to the base to hopefully get us through this turn and allow that base to repair itself. The French have pretty strong air capability over their aircraft carrier. Clemenceau has a Super Étendard with a 4 air-to-air value if you look at the number in the lower right corner, and then a Raphael with the 7. So for 11 points of anti-air capability, not bad. Now granted, at that range, it's 2 hexes away from the carrier, so the strength of the combat air patrol will be weakened. We really haven't ever discussed that, but if you look at this chart here, aircraft carrier cap chart, basically the further the cap has to move out to defend any kind of attack, the weaker its air capability is. So in this instance, we are looking at non-US air units with an air early warning situation. So at 2 hexes, he has full strength. At 3 hexes, he has a quarter of his strength and an eighth. The US units, primarily the F-14 Tomcats, have their strength, all the most complete strength, out to 3 hexes and then quartered at 4. So in this instance, if he were to attack, actually I would still have the full strength of my Étendard and my Raphael over Salalah to offer them defense, as well as the close area, anti-air area of the base itself, which is minimum of 3, but right now, yeah, it would be a 4 because it's at 4, halved at 4. So anyway, that's the French move to that position there. One thing I'm going to learn as the game progresses here is by tarrying there to defend that base, I've isolated the French away from my other NATO units, predominantly the other carriers. And although the task force is pretty strong, the French Clemenceau, well, when I say strong, it's a good task force, but the French only have the Clemenceau here with 3 escorts. And needless to say, I've let her sit too long to herself, especially with the Russian task force coming close there off Ras Karma. His task force won with the Tbilisi, which has great combat strength, anti-surface combat strength here with the Kalaman, the Zakharov, or no, excuse me, Ustinov, the Lichny, the Stoiky, the Zuzulia, the Golovko. He has got some great anti-surface combat strength there. And Task Force 1, of course, is right here, just off Ras Karma. And needless to say, like I said, I've left the French sitting by themselves for too long. I'm going to regret that later. In the Persian Gulf over here, my Task Group 12, which is down here, it is the empty tankers trying to get to Kuwait City. They're on their way. That's good stuff. But because of the lack of air support in the task group itself, now there's a cap. I understand there's a cap in this square as well, but that's actually the cutter in the city there, or the airbase there in Qatar. You know, Kuwait City, it now has no, or it's all the way at the top of the Persian Gulf. I have to keep air cover over these task groups because I don't want them to be hit by his bombers from range of 4, especially the backfire bombers have these fantastic surface-to-surface missile attacks at 4 range. And needless to say, I'm hugging the coast along Saudi Arabia here with these task groups to get them up to Kuwait. I want those tankers in the harbor there to get the points. But at the same time, my other warships, Task Force 11 and Task Force 14, they are moving south to leave the Persian Gulf to get out there to the Gulf of Oman to help other ships escort in. So, go down here. Now, Task Group 8, Task Force 8, excuse me. Task Force 8 is on its way north with the goal of getting to Bahrain, 3106. Those are empty tankers as well with Task Group 8. Italians escorting the 2 empty tankers. They've got some ways to go, but once I at least get them into the Persian Gulf, I'll be under tremendous air cover. And that's one of the problems I've been having here in the Gulf of Oman, is the Lincoln, who is escorting full tankers and trying to get them out to sea, keeps having to stay in close to provide air support to these task forces that are moving through. Scott keeps pegging my task forces and task groups with strategic or local detections, and so the Lincoln is hamstrung at getting herself out to sea, and instead having to stay here. The Ark Royal is right there, but the Ark Royal does not have the air strength that the Lincoln does. And although the not the Raphaels, but the Harriers are great, I need more air support. So the Task Force 4 here has been waffling back and forth, going south, then coming back north, and going south again. All the while just kind of going down, picking up more ships as they come closer to the Gulf of Oman, and then escorting them up as close as possible. The loss of Muscat was very detrimental because Muscat had given me a nice bridge to hand off to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and it's gone now. So needless to say, Lincoln has had to pick up that chore, and because of it, she sits idly here, and time is beginning to move on. And although I got plenty still, I got a lot of ocean to cover. So Task Force 4 hasn't moved much. Just sits there providing the air cover. The Brits are also coming north. They have Task Force 2 is their task force. They are escorting amphibious assault vessels. And the good thing here is the Royal Navy is almost done, because my goal for this amphibs is Muscat. I could take him over here to Karachi, but he's got a lot of subs in the way. So Muscat it is, and Muscat is as good as anything because it's right here. It's real close, and I can unburden myself from those ships, get the victory points, and then start putting these ships into their offensive capabilities instead of just playing babysitter. Now you'll look here. Muscat says airbase is destroyed, but it does have a port, and that port is viable. So that's a couple turns away, because even at 3 moves on the next turn with the amphibs, the Brits are still not going to get them all the way to their goal. So I'm looking at another 2 turns to get those guys to port. All right, so it says here in the South Arabian Sea, we lost the Fitch before. And the Fitch and the Cook were escorting the Sea Giant and the Gas Prince. They are now a task, no longer a task group with the loss of the Fitch. They're single stacks of vessels, which reduces my ability to defend. And although the Cook is a fast ship at 4, these big empty tankers are a slow go, so it's taken some time. Diego Garcia, good thing down here, my convoy ships, my fast convoy ships, Task Force 9, has made it to Diego, and they've offloaded. Task Force 10 with slow convoy ships are almost into port. Task Group 13, again slow convoy ships, are some ways out still, but they're moving along at a good clip without any detection and without any, he hasn't been paying any attention to them, which is cool. So we look here and we see, boom, the Capella and the Antares have both made it to port, and thus I get 20 victory points for them to land, to get in their offloading at Diego, which is cool. Slow but sure, we get these ships to their final locations. Over here in Sumatra, the Ranger gets even closer. We're down to basically 1, 2, 3, 1 move away from Great Nicobar, because once the Ranger moves one more time, of course it moved this round, so one more turn after this, it's moved closer to Great Nicobar. By moving one more time, it will be within 3. The next turn, those ships, the amphibious assault ships, can make their transit to Great Nicobar and land, and the Ranger will be free of her task of babysitting objective ships, high value targets. So that's pretty much everything that happened in my surface action. Again, not much in the way of combat. I'm not really able to use my surface ships to their potential of attacking his forces, just because I don't want them found. Most of my task groups are currently escorting somebody, and I cannot afford to have him using multiple types of attacks on them in terms of land or sea and air. So that was my surface move, and closer to my goals, but still far enough that I'm biting my nails. I'm going to change the map. Hold on one second. All right. With the next action segment, Scott, we have a log file. This is good. I can just walk through this one real quick. Scott chooses to go with air. And you'll see here, I'm just going to go over to that part of the map where he starts to launch his aircraft. Out of Ashgabat, he launches a strike of aircraft, flies over his base here in Yazd, and picks up a fighter escort, the Su-27s. So the Su-27s are really strong with 11 fighter strength. He's got an electronic warfare and then 2 Tupolev 22 bombers net. Based on where he's moved, it's evident that he intends to attack the ground. You cannot attack bases with surface-to-surface missiles, so he has to bomb them, which means he has to put his aircraft over the bases and potentially put them in harm's way. But sometimes it's worth it here. We're going to see what he does. But we continue to click. The damage bomber isn't coming since I can't break up the attacks, he says. Scratch that whole mission. So he moves everything back, and then he rebuilds his attack. And this attack now is just the one Tupolev 22 backfire bomber, again with the Su-27 interceptors, his electronic warfare. And he flies up here to attack Kuwait City. And my cap at Kuwait City is, that's 11, down here at 11. I've got a Mirage F with 5 strength and an F-18 with a 6 strength. So I've got 11 strength in Kuwait against his attacking 11 strength. So we're going to first, and this is the first time we've ever really looked at this with a log file. We're going to first engage with Cap. Before he can attack, my combat air patrol can come out to engage him and try to return his aircraft to base, or at least, or potentially destroy them. I can attack at a minimum of range of 1, and that's what I do here. So that's why his aircraft are stopped here and 1 hex away, because my combat air patrol aircraft are flying out to meet his. So what we have is an 11-11 air-to-air versus 11 air-to-air versus 12 air-to-air, or 1-2. Now, how does that work? That people might say, wait a second, how is that possible? First of all, let's look at his stack. He's got his Tupolev bombers have a 1, and his Su-27s have an 11. That's 12. Mine, we already looked at, and is an 11. So 11 to 12, it appears it would be a 1-to-1 ratio if you were to look at it as an average. Well, in this game, when you are when you put together the ratio for air-to-air combat, you always round to the defender's benefit. So I'm the attacker. My combat air patrol is flying out to attack him. I'm the attacker. He is the defender. I have 11. He has 12. It actually goes 1-2 instead of 1-1, because 11 can actually hypothetically go into 12 more than once. So it's a 1-2 combat ratio there. So then we go to our air-to-air combat page, and we go to the 1-2 column for Cap, which is right here, and he's going to roll on that. Anything that's on the left-hand side of the chart is the attacker. Anything on the right-hand side of the chart is the defender. So my goal is to get a 4, is for him to roll a 4 or better. If he rolls a 4, neither of us are damaged, but we're both returned to base. The R means a return to base. Anything higher than a 4, I'm not affected. I just got a bunch of zeros. He has either R's or 1R, 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 2R. Those 1s and 2 are steps of damage. So my Cap could, if he rolled a 9, hypothetically, he could take 2 steps of damage on his aircraft. He has an electronic warfare aircraft though with him, which gives him a benefit though. So when he rolls the dice, he's going to subtract 2 from that because of his electronic warfare aircraft, which obviously will lower the result, which, as you can see, as you go lower on the dice roll, it's to my non-benefit. It's to my potential loss. So, bottom line, we roll to see what the effect is. Now, also, when you do combat air patrol, the first things that are hit are fighters. So if I'm successful, he will reduce his fighters, not his bombers necessarily, because the fighters, his Su-27s are intercepting my F-18s and the Mirage Fs, and so they will be damaged first. So let's see what the result is first before we continue. Here, -2 to my die roll for electronic warfare, of course. He rolls a 2, 2 minus 2, of course, is a 0 result, and we saw what a 0 result was there on the 1 to 2 chart. I just took 2 steps of damage, and I'm RTB'd. So he just opened up Kuwait City. And a 2R0, he congratulates himself there. He removes, let's see here, I think he stepped the damage on. He removed the RTB or the cap from the board there, and he decided he'd kill the F-18s and put the Mirage Fs in the RTB column. It's his choice of which one he wants to kill, but it's got to be fighters, right? And then his bombers continue over the site. They bomb. He rolls for my ground-to-air defense, which is 30. That's very good. Again, -2 to the roll because of electronic warfare aircraft. He rolls a 1 for me, which is a -2. There's no effect to his bombers. On the 90 column, he rolls a 5. That's a hit. And he puts his aircraft back in their places as Kuwait City now has a damage 1 marker on it. Then his aircraft out of Baku launch. Oh, no. Excuse me. He launches the next wave of backfires out of Ashgabat, and with another 70 points of bombing strength, he rolls in a 15 air defense. He rolls a 6. That's a -3 on the armor or on the aircraft defense or die roll. I need at least a 4 if for that number to potentially cause him any damage for his aircraft. He rolls a 6, which is a 3. That's another hit. Kuwait City is becoming a smoking hole. And then Baku launches. Baku flies its Tupolev 160 all the way to the Maldives, which is certainly close enough there for him to do a cruise missile attack on Diego Garcia. My combat air patrol is F-15s. They have enough strength that they will give me a -2 to his attack roll. He rolls an 8. That's a 6. That's a hit on Diego Garcia. So no matter what, my aircraft now at Diego are grounded. Soviet national anthem plays softly in the background. Of course it does. He always enjoys gloating these things. Then he launches his T-95H out of Kabul. Makes the same flight again down. He's doing some measurements down to Diego. Cruise missile attack. Defense roll. No defense roll, hard habit to shake. He messed up, he says, because he put my cap away. Cap stays until the cap landing at the end of the cycle. So my F-15s are still there for a -2 to his roll. He rolls a 0, -2, and that is a waste of cruise missiles. He returns to Kabul with no results. And he's checking some stuff around here. Then he looks at his bombers in Ras Karma, or Kamran, I should say. And he does some measurements and says that he can't hit anything with those bombers. So he calls it in for his air phase there. He rolls again for initiative, and he gets a 9, which is odd number is Soviets, even number is the Allies. He goes again. And Scott calls up subs. His killer aircraft and his killer subs. Subs start moving. The Baykal positions itself by the Casablanca. The Griff moves. The Spitsnikov moves, basically hemming in the Casablanca. She either stays there or she's going to be found and attacked. The Rosoko? Yep, the Rosoko moves to try and pin in the Turbulent. The Chaika moves at full speed in the Persian Gulf to try and catch up with my task force. He still has dreams that that little diesel boat can put some torpedoes in a ship. The Sindhvaj moves. The Indian diesel boat moves at full speed into the Persian Gulf. Both of them are tagged with a strategic marker. The Avsenko comes down here to attack the Hashmat, -5. He rolls a 3, no effect. Rolls for detection, no effect. Continues. He brings the Rykov up. Rykov torpedo attacks the Doer. 25 torpedo attack on the Doer, 5 on the Manitowoc. Okay, let's take a look at this real quick. So the cool thing is when you attack, as we stated before at the beginning of the game, when you attack, he's attacking the Brits here, okay? So he's going to attack the Denver. He wrote the Doer, but it was the Denver. The Denver and the Manitowoc. It's his goal to sink some amphibious assault vessels. My combat strength, anti-submarine combat strength in this group is 3, 10, 17. Anytime you do ASW defense or ASW attacks with surface, the most you can add together is 3 of the ships from your group. So I got a 17 defense there. Not bad. So he brings up the Rykov, and the Rykov, that 30 over the N is his torpedo strength. He's going to put 25 of that into the Denver and 5 into the Manitowoc. Why in those breakdowns? Well, if we look at the CRT, he's got 30 points. If he were to just put all 30 into something, well, you look at the chart here, and 25 of that strength is all you really need to be able to use the benefits of that column. So why not put 25 into one ship and 5 torpedo strength into another? That's a cool thing in this game that you can do. Whether it's anti-surface missiles, whether it's torpedoes, bombing, it doesn't matter. You can break up your strength because, you know, it's not just one torpedo that's launching and it's a spread of torpedoes that he's firing. So he's going to be 25 into the Denver and 5 into the Manitowoc, as he said there. Or, yeah, that's what he has it there. So he says a 17 ASW defense. That's the rating of my ships. I get a +2 for task force. My ships are in a task force, which gives me a +2 defense. And he has a +2 for detective sub. Truthfully, that shouldn't have been there, and we find these things after we watch on a later date, but as he moved his sub in, he put a local detection marker on it. He didn't have to, he would have rolled to see if that sub was detected. It did move through 2 zones, but he should have rolled, not just put the marker. So he includes the +2 to defense there because you know, by knowing where a sub is, you are able to defend better against it if it's approaching for an attack run. So he rolls a 1 on my defense roll. Okay, so if we look at the chart, we go to 17 and we get a +4 to that roll. That 1 becomes a 5. So we go down the defense column to 5 over to 17, and you'll see it is a -4 to his attack. -4 to my die roll, right? Against the, now he rolls the 2 attacks. He rolls 1 defense roll, but then rolls the 2 attacks. One's on the 25 column, one's on the 5. Against the Denver, he rolls a 0, -4 is a -4. So on the 25 column, -4 on his attack roll, go over, we see that's a 0. No good. On the Manitowoc, he rolls an 8. An 8 -4 is a 4. A 4 result on a 5 column is still a 2. If we look at the Manitowoc has 3 defense here. 2 is more than half. Manitowoc is hit. And he gets so happy about that. Look at that. He celebrates. And I didn't roll for the Rykov's detection. And here he rolls a 7. And he says no. Takes the marker off. So in essence, he gave me a benefit there by giving me the +2 prior to his attack. Krylenko on the Hashma attacks. Rolls a 1, nothing. Roll to detect, nothing. The Nogan rolls to put the torpedo attack on the gas Prince, and 5 on the Cook. My defense of this group is 4. It's a -4 to the roll because automatic, because I'm no longer in a task force. Single stack ships, the defense is always at a -4. It's brutal. He rolls a 0, which is even more brutal. That is a 0, a result, meaning he has there's no defense modifier. It's a 0. So he now attacks with his noggin against the gas prince. He rolls a 4. That's a hit. He rolls against the cook, a 9, and the cook is sunk. Okay, the Singish moves. And he rolls for, oh, I said he forgot to roll for detection on the noggin. And truthfully, and there's another thing, he wouldn't have had to roll for that, because if you look at the gas prince and the Sea Giant, the big ends on the lower left mean they don't have any anti-submarine anyway. They can't even detect his ship, even if they wanted to. They don't have sonar. Okay, he moves some ships back and forth around here, down in the Maldives. He moves his ships, his boats around here. Oh, the Sindavir moves at full speed, he says. Gets a strategic detect. The Shishmar attacks the Sea Lion. He rolls a 9. That is a hit on the Sea Lion. Scott's just having all the good rolls here. And he says, I think that's it. So, a little bit of analysis here. Moving his subs in on my task groups. You know, he's going for the easy kills. He's picking these things apart, like, you know, carrion, with all these subs. And he has a ton of subs. It's just, as far as I'm concerned, it's 46 nautical miles here of water for every hex, but I swear to God, those things are bumping into each other. There's so many submarines in the water. It's like a feeding frenzy of sharks. Anyway, leaves a lot of damage in his wake. The Sea Lion's hit. The cook is sunk. The gas prince is hit. One of my empty tankers. Manitoic's hit. It was a good, you know, his bombers flew and had success, killed Kuwait City. It was a great round for him. I'm going to load the next map. All right, we continue here. So I got another log file. It's my turn now. He had won initiative in the second set of action segments. So it's my turn to go, and I choose subs. All right, so what do my subs do? Let's watch. So the Sea Lion moves up. Sea Lion attacks the Sindavir with a 4 ASW roll. I roll a 7, no effect. The Baton Rouge sails down to attack the Apakov with a 9 ASW roll. I roll 5, no effect. I roll for detection on this one, a 3. He finds, because when you attack somebody, you immediately either -2 if it's a nuke, -4 if it's a diesel. And so with a 3, he rolls essentially a 1. And, you know, I miss my vaunted technological wonder, the Baton Rouge, comes in to attack his Apakov here. I miss, but, you know, the technical wonder that it is, he finds it. Yeah, a little bitter but about the dice here, man. All right, the Miami heads to draw in his 2 boats over here. Albany sails down to assist the Miami. We're going to try and kill some subs there. So the Albany launches a cruise missile attack on the Adu Atoll, his base right here. I want to shut that thing down. I got 1 hit on it already, but we need to shut it down because he does, if you look here, he does have bombing strength of 60 in those Jags. And now that my air defense over Diego Garcia has been shut down because of his cruise missile strike, bombing from Adu Atoll is a real thing. I don't want those bombers flying over Diego Garcia and hitting my base and destroying it. Understand, we are limited in our cruise missile attacks, and we've pretty much used most of our cruise missile attacks to this point. Scott still has some. I'm not saying he didn't have any left, but every one we make, it's like a countdown. And if my bases can survive these cruise missile attacks, then the only thing I have to worry about is bombing after that. He only has a few bombers that can reach Diego Garcia. And if it can survive until the F-15s are back up in the air, those bombers will never touch the Diego Garcia air base with anything. So we got some work to do. So bottom line, I strike with cruise missile strike out of the Albany, and I roll a 9, which is a hit. And Adu Atoll takes another marker of damage. Okay, Key West moves. Key West will make an attack on the Adu Atoll with a cruise missile attack. My roll, an 8. Boom! That's a hit again. And now the Adu Atoll has no defense. CAA is 0, so she has been pretty much reduced to a smoking hole. When that's the next bombing hit that it takes, I blow those aircraft up. Sea Devil fires on the Balkash. The Sea Devil is right here. She fires on the Balkash, which is a very strong. I think this is their. The Balkash is not the Tangos. What, the Yankees? I'd have to look. The Balkash. The Oscars. They're Oscars. Pretty strong boats there. Cruise missile capable, and as you can see, they've got a 9 strength, and they're deep divers. These things are hard to kill. Anyway, the Sea Devil attacks with a 9 strength. I roll a 4, no effect. She then quickly sails away because she is detected, and I don't want return fire on her unless he wants to come and get it. But he's already moved his subs this turn, so I got that going for me. The Ghazi runs at full speed. She will attack the Senko, trying to get this boat right here down. She's damaged. If I can hit her, she's gone. No effect. The Humat runs at full speed. Again, attack 0. No effect. The Seawolf moves in quietly at normal speed. Fires. I roll a 1. And again, an expletive there for no effect. I test for detection. I roll a 6. He does not find me. The Mont Rivers moves in on his boat here, the Nogan, which just killed my fast frigate, hit the Gas Prince. I want to sink this thing. So the Noggin is attacked with a 9. I roll a 5, no effect. Test for detection. I roll 8. He does not find me in return. Haddock moves out of the Gulf. Casablanca moves out of that trap that he was trying to get me in. The Turbulent is now in place or close proximity to both Task Force 1 and Task Force 3. Task Force 3 is the one that contains the slow convoys. I have 22 torpedo value. He does not know where I'm at. I'm attacking. I put 19 into his Con 8 and 3 into the Minsk. So we look at Task Force 3. This Con 8 is the one I want. I want to sink that boat. I want to hit the Minsk, or at least MNS HK, whatever it's called, with the balance. And again, we use the option of 19 being the column at 22. So I can put 19 and get the value of that column, and then put 3 into the other boat for a total of 22 combat value. He has a 12 ASW rating. He gets a +2 to the dice roll for being in a task force. He rolls a 0. That is a -2 to my attack roll. 0 becomes a 2. A 2 gives me a -2 to my attack roll. I'll roll for the Con 8 first, and then the Minsk. I roll a 9, which is a 7. That's a kill. The Con 8 explodes in the late afternoon hours. And then finally, I roll a 0 against the Minsk, and of course, the Minsk is not undetected. I roll to see if he finds me. It's a -2 to the die roll because I fired, and he locates the Turbulent, and the Turbulent quickly moves away. That looks like all of them. So that's my subs attacks. I shot a lot of torpedoes in the water, or to little effect until the end there when we, pardon me, killed one of his slow convoy vessels. Great thing is great thing is he won't get the victory points for it if he gets those slow convoy vessels to their goal, which is over here in Jawana. Or Jawani, I think it is. Jawani or Chabahar. That's his goal with those slow convoys. He's not going to get the victory points, but it doesn't give me any victory points for killing it. So it was a good success. I'm glad I killed it, but again, it doesn't move my line anywhere closer towards my goal. Anyway, we roll for initiative. I roll a 6, and it's me again. So the only thing I have left to use is my aircraft. So this should be quick because if you remember, Diego Garcia was hit, which means no aircraft can launch off of Diego. All the north, or all the Persian Gulf, is shut down because of command failure. So really the only thing I have is aircraft off my aircraft carriers. So the S3 Vikings launch. They try to attack here against the Shuka. 4 ASW, I roll an 8, no effect. They land. My A6 flies and attacks the Adu Atoll with defenseless base with a 90 bombing. I roll at 4, and the Adu Atoll is a smoking hole in the ocean. So she returns to base. We pull those aircraft. That's a good kill, and that bear base is no longer viable. The cool thing is I not only get the points and kills for his aircraft that were sitting on the tarmac, but I also get the points for killing the boat or the base itself, so that was good. Again, we see my P3 Orions doing their little dance here to strike and combined arms. With an 8 AS value, I roll a 7, and that is a hit on the Indian sub. The Sindavir is damaged, and those aircraft land. The Sindavir actually was sunk because she was already damaged. Pardon me. So we got that that benefit there. Enterprise launches an attack. Not Enterprise, Ranger launches an attack against the Shishmar with the S3 Viking. And we roll a 3, or 2, no effect. He lands. With the North shut down for comm failure, Diego hit. I'm done with air. And that is the end of my 2 actions. Not bad here. We got some kills. We killed the Sindavir, and we killed all of his aircraft here. Again, he, of course, had great success himself. Now we're going to see his last action segment with his ships. Let's bring that up. All right, this last map is another log file, so we'll be able to move through it real quick. I don't think he has much to do, so I'll go kind of rapidly through it. I'm not going to explain all the combats. We'll just look at the results. I think everybody's kind of either catching on to how combat works, or you know how it works already. So let's just see what happens with his surface movements. He says surface there, and Task Force 2 continues south out of the Gulf of Aden. What's so big about Task Force 2? Let's look real quick. Task Force 2 is made up of Convoy 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are his slow convoy ships that need to get to Ras Karma. He's going to get there, and I have nothing. The Turbulent, the Casablanca, and the Clemenceau are there, but they are hardly strong. I don't have the force to stop a whole. With all these other task forces he's got Task Force 3 and Task Force 1. I don't have the strength here in the Gulf of, or Socotra, or in the Gulf of Aden even, to stop these convoy vessels from making their goal. He moves that surface, his Yemeni patrol craft close. As you can see, I've detected them. He does not detect me yet, but with the next detection phase, because he's next to me, he will detect me. Task Force 3 then moves to attack the Turbulent. He's got Task Force 3 ASW attack on the Turbulent. If we look at Task Force 3, he's got 4, 8, 12 ASW strength. There is no defense roll on a ASW attack. So we go to 12 column. He rolled a 1. 1 at 12 is a 1. That was a wasted attack. No effect. And he cusses. So sorry. His Task Force 3 moves. Task Force 1 moves, I should say. Brings its combat strength 20 ASW on the Turbulent. He rolls a 0. And again, he gives us an expletive to all the kids out there. I'm sorry for my friend. his Indian vessels move a little north towards up into the grouping up here into the North Arabian Sea with all these submarines and this cat fight going up here. Down south, his task forces move, reorganize, and that is it. That is all he does with his. So he's got a lot of stuff following me, following the Ranger specifically down into the Straits of Malacca. I have, except for the Ranger's stealth right now and our aircraft, it's really all I have. But to get the Ranger out of this kill zone, it's going to take sheer luck. And this kind of harkens back to my first comments when we started this game. Maybe, just maybe, I should have given it a little bit more time before I moved these ships off to them by themselves. Granted, the Ranger has 4 or 5 escorts, but when you have a Soviet task force that's made up of 8 combat ships, it's a lot to deal with, especially when he's following it up with 2 Indian task groups and forces. So anyway, that's the end of this one. Again, we're at 45 minutes. I apologize. I hope you guys don't mind sitting and watching the longer videos, but I wanted to expedite these faster and get it all in one. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. I appreciate that. Stick around. I'll try and get another video up today and get this whole game day over with. So, appreciate you watching.